Sounds good. It's good, Auden. You looking jippy. Babes. Hold up, this man's sus.
What's up, everybody?
What's good,
How you
bro?
guys doing? Yo, so I should tell you guys something crazy. I'm actually new to the experience chat.
Nice.
Yeah,
Welcome.
I'm so excited for this call, man.
Yeah, bro. I don't usually do lessons. I usually just do Q&A. So you got lucky, bro. You joined right when I do lessons.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I closed this $500 client like a week, like yesterday, and it was insane. I was like, what? Is this actually happening? Like, that's crazy. But yeah.
This man Bruno trying to record the call. Like, bro, I'm already recording it. Man thinks he's slick with his OBS. Like, bro, we can all see your OBS symbol. Like, bro, if you're gonna record, at least be sly about it. Come on, man. It's got like the massive OBS symbol just like as a profile picture.
Try harder, Bruno. Try harder.
Yeah, bro. It's just like straight up exposed your ass. It's just like OBS trying to get you caught slipping. But yeah, we can chat a little bit for like 10, 15 minutes. Just kind of like warm my brain up and then well, my brain's already kind of warm, but we'll wait for people to come in. So does anyone got questions about stuff? Yeah, figure out how to share. All right. Can you guys see that screen?
Yes.
All right.
I can see it.
Can you see like a sticky note or no? Like a pink sticky note?
No.
Okay, cool. Awesome. I can share just one screen. That's cool. I got my notes, but I don't want you guys skipping ahead. All right. See, this is exactly why I brought a lesson because I knew we were gonna jump on here. I'm be like, you guys got any questions? And they were like, no.
Well, that's good because I'm prospecting right now. So my brain is, I don't want my brain to melt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, your brain is gonna melt. What do you mean? I'm about to drop like mad lessons.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
All
You
right.
gotta
I
drop
guess
the seeds, bro.
yeah, I am gonna drop the seeds, and I'm gonna tell you how I do it. How I do it. So, all right, cool. One sec. All right, cool. So, let me give you guys access to this, so you can like make copies of that shit. All right. Cool. So today I want to talk about layers to copywriting and basically how I think about copy now and think about everything in terms of marketing. So when you first kind of get into the world of copywriting, you kind of believe that everything has to do with the words themselves that you're actually speaking or sorry, writing. And so what I'll see a lot is a lot of people will end up writing things that sound, or I guess not sound, but look and feel fancy. Like they try really hard to like write fancy, but there's not a lot of like meaning behind what they're saying. It just looks good. I think people get this impression because they listen to the way that Tate speaks and they look at Tate's emails and they think, oh, I need to try and write fancy like that. Or like not even fancy, it's just the way that he speaks. He has this like way of saying certain words which has an impact. But to majority of people, they don't understand what that means because you guys have context for what he's saying because you watch his YouTube videos. But if you don't, then you don't understand what he's saying. There's a lot of vagueness to it. There's a lot of abstraction. And I'll go deeper into like what I mean by abstraction in a minute. So yeah. So essentially, people you try really hard to make your sentences look and feel cool. but there's a difference between writing a novel and writing compelling copy. They're two completely different things. And so I find that a lot of times people will think, oh, I'm a writer, I'm an author, I'm going to go be a copywriter, and they fucking blow. And it's because they're so focused on making something look good and feel good and sound good, but there's no actual like meaning behind it. They don't. And I think I talked to Auden about this a long time ago. I think we were on like an apprentice call, and we were talking about my process for how I write copy, and I was explaining how I write copy, and he's like, damn, I don't know what the fuck I've been doing this whole time. Because he would just write shit, and I'm like, no, there has to be like an idea in mind of what you're trying to do. You have to think about, consciously or unconsciously, like I unconsciously do it now, but I used to consciously think about like what is the message I'm trying to convey, and where am I trying to take them. Because you gotta think, like, every person has a place that they're at now, and you got to think about what are the steps that lead someone to the end result or end goal that they want. And so if you can think about where someone is at now, typically if it's like, say you're the guru, I mean you're not, but say you are, you look back on what were the steps that got me to where I am now. So where was I before I made like 10K a month, or 100K a month, or whatever the guru has. Like, what steps were necessary along the way? What stepping stones got me to where I am, and what lessons can I share, and how can those lessons impact someone on a certain level? And so cool. So if I pause, because I'm just like grabbing stuff from the sticky note. So at the end of the day, words don't matter as much as you think. What matters more is the meta level messages that you convey. And I'll explain like what meta level messages mean, but it's just, if you ever look at something and you're just like, man, this has a lot of impact on me, but I don't really know why, it's because there's like meta level messages that are being conveyed in that message that are impacting you. And it's not necessarily the words that someone's saying, it's the overall feel of it and the overall direction that it's taking you. And a lot of that has to do with what I call change work. So like marketing is nothing more than change work. It's changing you from wanting to use one workout program to another. It's changing the way you view the world to another way of viewing the world. So at the end of the day, if you look at like any of Tate's emails, his emails are simply change work. So we're gonna like look at some of his emails, and I'll break it down. But essentially, the best copy is changing someone's point of view, changing the way they think about the world and the way they operate. I think it's on my other account. So actually, I don't have it on this one. I have it on yeah, so it's basically just changing the way someone views the world, right? So that's where like good copy comes along, is it changes the way you view things and the way you think about the world. And so that's like one layer, right? We're going to go a lot deeper. There's going to be a lot more layers I'm going to talk about. But if you look at like, command your own destiny, right? So the age of education is coming to an end. Can you guys see my email? Can you guys see the email?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I want to make sure because yeah, all right, cool. All right, so the age of free education is coming to an end. Facebook and Instagram have already removed any positive influence from their platforms. In a few years, any resemblance to the truth will be erased. There's a war happening on your mind. They're altering your environment. Most of you are too lazy to fight back and do anything about it. You cannot be lazy or complacent about the influences on your mind. If you do not actually control the thoughts and ideas you are surrounded by, then you end up exactly where your masters want you to be, a slave. Resist slavery, pick your influences. The signal cannot be stopped. Tate can always be found. Positive influence, da da da. Yeah. So think about the change work that is going on here. Because a lot of people just look at this and they're like, oh yeah, like it sounds cool. Like it sounds good, like the way that he's speaking. And then I'll see people try and mimic this and it doesn't fucking land and nothing happens with it. It's because you're missing the meta level thing that is going on. And that's what I was trying to convey a lot of times when I'm telling people stuff. And that's why it's really hard for me to sometimes give feedback, because I'll look at an email and on the surface, the email looks good. but then I'm also like, you're saying a lot of nothing. Like you're not really doing anything. It just looks good and it sounds good, but it's hard for me to give feedback because I'd have to like rewrite everything, and I also have to then I'd have to understand your audience, your avatar, and I don't understand that, and also I don't want to do all that work. So it's like think about the thing that's happening on. So it's like the age of free education is coming to an end. You know, in a few years, any resemblance to the truth will be erased. So it's painting this idea of, look, the world is like about to be changed completely. Like any resemblance to the truth is going to be erased. There's a war happening on your mind, and so now it's like causing you to think about this. You're like, okay, there's a war happening on my mind. It's all they're altering your environment, and then it's also saying like most of you are too lazy to fight back. So it's basically this message saying that like things are happening to you, and you're just allowing them to happen. Like that's like the next layer below, and there's like tons of layers below this, but that's like the next surface level layer of like, okay, the meta level message being conveyed is like there's a war on your mind, things are happening, and you're just letting it happen. And so if you listen to this and you accept this, now you're starting to farther accept my way of viewing the world, which is then going to help me later when I want to sell you something, right? Because then you're starting to think how I think. I'm indoctrinating you. And a lot of people get this confused. They think that this is education, right? Like they look at Tate's videos and they're like, oh, Tate's educating me. No, he's not educating you, he's indoctrinating you. There's a difference. So like indoctrination is basically like someone is trying to make you think the way that they think. And that's how you can really create a really good audience and a really loyal fan base of people who believe the same things you believe and think the way you think. And if they don't, you shift their beliefs through your free content, right? So you shift it slowly, but you do it subtly. And this can all be positive, right? Like the stuff Tate does is positive, but some people do it for the negative, right? Like they don't, it's not actually helping you, it's actually bad for you. Cool. Now we're gonna go even deeper. So remember earlier when I said when you first learn copy, the words matter a lot. But I kind of lie because like basically I was like, when you first learn copy, the words matter a lot. And then I told you, but as you progress, they don't. Well, I kind of lied because the words do matter, but not in the same way that you imagine them to matter. And what I mean by that is like, is basically like every word in the dictionary, every word that you use in the dictionary has a specific association with it. So when I say dog, you think and picture a dog in your mind. But my dog is completely different to the picture of your dog, right? Because you have different subjective experiences to the world than I do. You have different memories. And so every word that you use has a specific association with it. And people don't think about this when they write copy. So when I said earlier about everyone just tries to write fancy, that's the issue with it, is like you're writing certain things and you're not thinking about the things that you're saying. You're just saying shit that sounds cool, but you're not thinking about the unimplied messages that you're conveying to someone, not even realizing that these could actually fuck your sale because you're saying shit that is actually causing them to think of things that aren't good. So basically, when I say the dog, like, but you also associate previous memories and feelings about dogs when I mention it, right? You might have a story or something in your mind where you think of it. So humans tend to think in pictures. It's why when you write, you can sometimes feel and see the copy. And so what I mean by that is like the way that you view the world right now through your eyes, you're viewing it through like almost like imagine that you're watching a YouTube video, except it's just your life. Like it's basically going like photo by photo by photo by photo in mass time, in rapid time, right? Like you're looking at the world, it's almost like a photo, but it's real. So when you read copy, you do the same thing. Your mind sees pictures. So when you say certain words and convey certain things, that leads to specific feelings and thoughts and pictures in your mind. And those have different associations with it. And so that's why we basically say, like, that's why we always say that writing making sure your copy is visual is important. And if you look at some of John Carlton's letters, his letters are really amazing. I love looking at sales letters. A lot of his copy has these like amazing like uses of words. Like his copy is very simple, but it conveys a really good message. So he uses, like, for example, the word burst. Well, the word burst has like such a implied message behind it. It's like bursting full of love versus just like you feel love. It's different because you're feeling like a burst has an implied message behind it. It's subtle, but there's a lot behind that. So if you can pack a lot of your messages with a lot of these different words that have a big connotation behind them, a big meaning behind them, and cause a specific visualization, that can cause specific feelings in people. Because when you think about it, like, what is a memory? Like, why do you have memories? You have memories because they're attached to a specific feeling, right? That's why you remember things, because it made you feel a certain way. You eat a certain type of food, makes you feel good. You go to a concert, you feel really good, and that causes the imprint in your mind. So therefore, that must mean that if I say a word and it causes you to think of a memory, that means that I can therefore affect your feeling, right? Because if I cause you to evoke a certain memory that makes you feel a certain way, then I can adjust the way you feel. Yeah, we're getting on to smiling now, bro. We're not even there yet, bro. We're only like a fourth deep, bro. Just wait. So I was reading this book, or I was listening to this book called Reality Transurfing. It's kind of a fucking crazy book. It makes you think about the world really weird. But in the book, he gives this example of so time is moving, right? Like right now, the way you experience the world, time moves, right? Like time's always moving forward and things are always happening. Like what's happened has happened. But in actuality, time is like static. If you look at it in the past, like if I look at the past, time is static. It's just a static thing. It's only when you're experiencing it in the present is the world moving forward. But when you look at it in the past, it's a static event. What that means is, like, if I look back on my life and I think about things, that memory is implanted in my mind as like a memory and a picture. And then those pictures are like pictures back to back to back to back, which create like this moving thing. So when you look at a film, right? Like say you look at a film and you look at like the old film reels, like when you put a reel, it'd be like an image, like back to back. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Like if you take like an old reel and you put it like in a like back in the day, to watch a movie, you would put this thing in and it was like it was like image, which would translate into video. So it's like, make sure you guys.
Like a flip book.
Yeah, it's kind of like a flip book, like
It's like a bunch of pictures that move
yeah,
really
exactly.
fast.
Yeah, so if you look at this, like that's an image, those are all images. So back in the day, you would play this reel and it would play like images back to back, but it looked so seamless that it looked like a movie. So the reason I bring that up is like time is moving in real life, but then when you look back on your past, it's actually static. And what I mean by static is like this is time isn't really moving. It's just you're looking at still images. So like you look at still images like this. So I'm trying to remember where I was going with that. So yeah, so basically like you only see time moving because you're moving with it. But then when you reflect back on it, it's like these images. And so when someone like thinks back about something, they think of it in these pictures is basically what I was trying to say. So yeah. So then grab the sticky note. So remember when I said there's layers, right? Like, so that's just like one layer. So there's more layers below that, right? So like imagine so what I mean is that like words don't just say things, they make you feel things, right? And so they make you think of these images in your head. And so that's why when I say I'm writing on different layers and I'm like levels above people, that's what I mean by that, is like everyone's just looking at one thing. It's like there's this layer. And so if you can understand this layer, you can write way more compelling than other people. But then there's even more layers. There's like layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. And it's not like one is It's not like here's layer 1 and then here's layer 10. It's not, I don't think about it like that. There's just multiple different layers that you can hit. And when you understand all of them, you can seamlessly write in a way that it's hard to really explain. There's no process for it. There's no like technique. There's no tactic. It's just because at the end of the day, what are tactics, right? If you think about like what a technique is, when Andrew would tell us, hey, use the technique of use the word imagine this. Well, what's he trying to do? He's trying to teach you how to do these things without teaching you this, because to teach you this, it's hard to teach someone new this stuff. That's why I'm only teaching it in an experience chat, because they won't understand this stuff. It doesn't really make sense to them. They just want the tangible tactical thing, which is good. It will get you to a certain level. But if you can learn to think like this and understand why you're doing certain things, then you're able to write even better, because then you don't need a tactic per se. You just know unconsciously this stuff. And that's basically what I'm trying to show you. So if you can use your copy to guide the way that someone feels and thinks and act, you can begin to shift the way they view the world, right? And that's just one layer. So now when you look at Tate's emails through like a certain lens, it has a lot more meaning now, because you're understanding what's happening. So now we're about to go even deeper. Does this make sense, everyone, before I go deeper? Does anyone have questions about this shit before I go deeper? If it doesn't fully make sense yet, a lot of it will come together at the end. But if you're not sure about something, let me know. Bro, you missed everything. What the fuck? Damn, we're about to be like layers deeper than Jesse, and he's gonna be like, what the hell is even happening? Bro, don't be late then, fucking dork. You're calling us gay. All right. You have to watch the recording then. All right, so another layer even deeper is understanding that the human mind can only hold one thought at a time. Here, I'll go a quick overview because there's probably other people who just came in. So when you first begin in the world of this is a quick overview, so you have to like rewatch this if you really want the full impact. But all right, so when you first begin in the world of copywriting, you believe everything has to do with the words themselves. So you try really hard to make your copy look and feel, let's say, fancy. But there's a difference between writing a novel and writing compelling copy, right? At the end of the day, the words don't matter as much as you think. What matters more is the meta level messages that you convey. And marketing is nothing more than change work, right? You're changing someone from using one workout program to another. You're changing the way they view the world to another way of viewing the world. If you look at any of Tate's emails, you'll see that his emails are simply change work. Now, remember earlier when I said when you first learn copy, the words matter a lot, but as you progress, they actually don't. Well, I kind of lied, because the words do matter, just not in the same way that you imagine them to matter. Because every word in the dictionary has a specific association with it. When I say the word dog, you think and picture a dog in your mind. But as you associate previous memories and feelings about the dog when I mention it, so you associate different memories and feelings about the dog than I do, right? You think about specific times when you had a dog in your mind that's imprinted on your mind. It's completely different to the way I view it. So humans tend to think in pictures. It's why when you write, you can sometimes feel and see copy. And it's why we always say that making your copy more visual is important. So remember when I said there's layers, what I mean is that words don't just say things, they make you feel things. Because basically what happens is I say a word, then you imagine something, and that imagination then creates memories, and then those memories have specific feelings behind them. So basically the way it goes, I think I show it later. I think I say it later. I think I say it later on, but basically it goes words, memory, feeling about that memory, and then emotion, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, so then if you can use your copy to guide the way someone feels and thinks and acts, and you can begin to shift the way they view the world. That's one layer. No, bro, you can't have any questions. Fuck off. Another layer even deeper is understanding that the human mind can only hold one thought at a time. So this is where I was saying we're going to go deeper, Alden. So another layer even deeper is understanding. This is like powerful. Like you guys need to understand this. Like your mind can only hold one thought at a time. You cannot hold two opposing beliefs at the same time. One will always overpower the other, and then you'll just stick to that belief. Like you guys need to like reread that shit because it's fucking powerful. Like you can only hold one existing belief about something in the world. And that's powerful because if I can convince you of one way of thinking, then you're not going to think another way. And so what happens is so when you market to people, you first have to make them give up their current way of thinking before they can adopt your philosophy. I know plenty, but most believe two things at once. It's true. Like people can believe two things at once, but there's not a genuine belief there. Like you can believe two things at once, but it's really hard. Okay, so what I mean by it, I think the key point that you're missing is like two opposing beliefs. Like you can't be a Republican and a Democrat. You can't believe in like feminism and also not. Like two opposing beliefs is what I mean. So that's what I mean. It's like you can't hold two conflicting thoughts at the same time, right? But it will make more sense as I wrap it. So just wait. So when you market to people, you have to make them first give up their current way of thinking before they can adopt your philosophy, right? So essentially, before you can, most people try to get someone to say yes first. They try and get them to say yes to their product. But in actuality, you have to get them to say no before they can say yes. And that's really powerful when you think about it, because if I want you to join, say, like a program or some shit, I have to first get you to say no to Hustlers University or like somewhere else, right? I have to get you to say no first. Like obviously you can join both, right? But let's say they're like the same price. Like if they're competing and they're competitive and you don't have the money for one or the other, I have to first get you to say no to that one before I get you to say yes to mine. I can't just sell you mine. I have to, like, someone has to get you to say no before they can say yes. And this is exactly why when you look at luxury brands, a lot of luxury brands end up like having a lot of complications and end up going into like going out of business. Why? Because people at that income bracket can afford anything. So you're basically competing with everything. So like, let's say I want to sell someone a Lamborghini. Well, they have to think, well, maybe I want to buy real estate with that money. Maybe I want to join a mentorship. Maybe I want to do this. There's so many things they have to say no to before they can buy your Lambo. But let's say I want to sell you a $50 course. There's not as many things I have to get you to say no to before I can get you to say yes. Like I just have to get you to say no to like maybe Netflix or some other things, right? It's not as hard. So basically, do you see like what I mean now by layers? Right? The average copywriter is only thinking about the features and benefits of the product. They aren't thinking about all the other layers that matter. Who the fuck is on the mic?
Left, right, left, left, left.
Bro, what? Fucking mute. Anyways. So when you begin to think in this way, you can write copy on different levels, right? You no longer compete on the level of writing words, you compete even deeper. So when you write words, those words create recollection of memories, which then form images in your mind, which then forms feelings about those memories, which then creates emotion. So if you can use the right words, aka not some fucking fancy word, that actually has a deep meaning, you can affect someone's emotions. Do you see why? Because you start with a word that causes a recollection of a memory, which then forms an image, which then makes someone have a feeling about that image or that memory, and then it creates the emotion. So essentially, the key thing is though, if someone to, you can make someone have a specific memory, right? Like let's say I start making you think about certain things. I can kind of guide your thinking. I don't need you to think about your own memories. I don't have to know what your memories are. I can just like guide that thinking. And I can also, a better way of doing it is to force future memories. I can start making you think about future identities, future memories. So if I'm like, imagine what it would be like if you were driving, or, you know, imagine what it's like if you walk into the club and every girl was looking at you. Well, there's like, that's a future memory. And then there's also a future feeling associated with that. It's like you're thinking, oh shit, like that would feel amazing. And then there's emotions that come with that. You're like, that would feel amazing, which would then give me this emotion of joy. And so that's like, if I can convey all of that, then I can make you feel certain ways. You have to convince people to take time out of their 24 hours invest. Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. Hilltop is like, this is why I say there's layers to it, right? Like there's trade-offs. I have to first get you to say no to a certain product, but there's also trade-offs for that too. I have to get you to, I basically cover that in a second, actually. I'll just wait. I think I covered that in like literally 2 seconds. Yeah, okay, I cover that later, so I'll cover that. So that's why the act of trying to write fancy is stupid, because it creates abstraction in the mind. What is abstraction? Abstraction is basically abstraction is, I'm not going to answer your question, Jesse. Abstraction is when you try to use specific words that cause the reader to have to connect dots to themselves, or sorry, have to connect dots themselves. They have to guess what you mean. And that's a problem, because if they have to guess what you mean because you're using these weird fancy words, they don't really know what they mean, then they have to guess, and then that means they can go off on their own and they can make their own judgments. And this is where I bring in the concept of dropping seeds into someone's mind, which I'll cover in a second. What's your question, Alden?
Right. Yeah. I was wondering if you write in a way that it appeals to their senses, is that like something similar? So like maybe you write about like how something feels and how it tastes. You know, maybe you go into detail about food, like a specific meal.
Yeah, so I mean that's one way. I mean, I don't necessarily do that myself, but that's definitely like, say I'm writing to someone, you know, on like a baking offer. It's like, well, those people have different associations and feelings, and they almost have like a different language for the way to describe foods, right? Because like to me, food's just food, but like let's say it's, you know, I'm talking with a bunch of buddies who all know how to bake, and they try all these different things, but they have different ways of like talking about the texture and talking about the feeling and they have different ways of speaking about that I don't. And so like if you can talk in that way, you elicit certain memories and certain emotions behind that thing. Not in that fashion, because I don't really write for those kind of brands, but
Yeah, it was just an example, but
yeah, for sure. Cool. So now we're about to go even deeper. So this is where I bring in the concept of dropping seeds into people's mind. I've only told a few people about this. So the concept of dropping seeds into someone's mind, like if you can drop a seed into someone's mind, that makes them question their current reality without them knowing that you're doing anything. And by doing that, you automatically create two opposing beliefs. Remember, the mind can't handle two opposing beliefs. So essentially dropping a seed is making you, so it's what I call like push versus pull marketing. Like push marketing is like me trying to force an idea down your throat, versus me mentioning certain things that make you question your certain reality of the way you view things. So if you look at the stuff Tate does, he talks about how there's a matrix, and he gives you clear examples like of like pandemic and all these other, he gives you lots of examples. He talks about things. He doesn't tell you, I mean, sometimes he does tell you the way to think, but a lot of it is subtle. It's like he's making you question certain things, and when provided with proof, then you start to question it, then you go off on your own and you come up with your own assessment, and you come back and you think, damn, what the fuck? And now you have two opposing beliefs. Do I believe that the government's controlling shit, or do I not? And then you have to pick one. like, you know, I mean, it's hard to pick one or the other. Like you can obviously have two opposing beliefs in your mind, but it causes stress. It causes you to not think as clearly because it's hard to think. And that's why like fear does so well, because you're basically injecting an emotion into someone that makes them question shit. So an example of like why people freak out about the recession, it's like you're going through life and you think, oh, my job is fine, I have financial security, and then it's like, oh, a recession's coming. Well, now there's two opposing beliefs. Now you think, oh shit, maybe I don't have security, like financial security, and now there's two opposing beliefs in your mind. You're like, fuck, and it causes this panic feeling, and like you feel like you need to do something, and the only way to do something is to find a solution, right? Or you just let it stay there, and that's why you have this. That's why some people have anxiety, or they have all these different problems, because they have too many different beliefs in their mind, and they're allowed people to mess with them and shake them up, and now they have this like chaos in their mind where it's like their mind was shaken up and they don't feel like there's a solution, and that creates a sense of anxiety because you're like, there's two different things holding in your mind. So yeah, so basically so it will fucking erode their mind, and it'll cause them to pick one or the other, or they don't, and they get anxiety. So we'll say like, or they don't, and they feel anxiety constantly. So now I'm going to explain this. So basically, that's why you want to drop a C, because if I just came to you and said, hey, being on the keto diet sucks, do my diet, it's like you're likely going to reject that. But if I can place specific ideas that make you question that maybe the keto diet isn't good, well, then you'll start to wonder. Or like, if I provide you with specific ideas or specific proof, or I just say things that make you kind of question it, or I make you question that maybe there's a better option that works even better, then I can get you to start thinking differently. I'm not necessarily saying you got to buy my thing. I'm just getting you to think in a different way. So then when you leave my sales page or my email, your mind will erode for days. You'll naturally want to fix this problem or the chaos occurring in your mind. You want to get rid of the tension. So like basically it's tension, right? Like that's what causes anxiety, right? When you have tension in your mind. That's why like when a problem arises with a client, or think about like this, like imagine like your partner or like a girl you're talking to is like, hey, I want to talk. And you're like, cool, what do you want to talk about? She's like, well, I can't talk about it till tonight. And then it's like all day you're like, fuck, like there's this tension and there's no release for that tension. And it's like, so it's like, there's two ways of doing it. It's one, it's caused by two opposing beliefs, or two, it's caused by like uncertainty. Like you don't know if something is good or not, or like there's a problem, so that can cause anxiety. So like you feel this tension, you're like, oh shit, I need to do something, I need to alleviate this. And then it causes like low grade anxiety. So then they will seek out information that makes you, that makes them, sorry. Oh, sorry. So then they will seek out information that makes them pick one side or the other, right? Like when you start learning about something, when you learn about like Hustlers University, or you learn about what copywriting was in the first place, you started researching it because you're like, well, shit, that maybe I can make money from this thing, and this sounds really cool. I'm gonna like research it. Maybe I don't need to work a 9-to-5 job. I don't even know about this thing, but I'm gonna learn more about it. And once that happens, then you'll likely pick the belief that I installed into you. Because I'm shifting the way you're viewing shit. I'm skewing it. I'm not showing you. So the reason you will pick my belief is I'm skewing it. I'm only showing you the upsides. I make it sound simple. I make it sound easy. And then I amplify the negatives and the hardships of the other thing. So it's like, of course, you know, maybe one diet isn't that much better than the keto diet, but I'm going to make it sound like that because what I'm going to do is I'm going to exemplify and amplify the negatives and the hardships of that one thing, and I'm only going to show you the positives of my thing. I'm not really going to talk about them. Of course they exist, but that's not like I'm going to like actively speak about them. I'm just going to make it sound like my thing is very simple, very easy to do. Just follow this shit. It's fucking easy. You don't have to do very much. Boom. I mean, how many of you joined Hustlers University because Tate's like, bro, there's a bunch of millionaires in there. You just join, boom, you get rich. It's like, okay, there's a lot of steps missing there. Like, you don't just fucking join and then get fucking rich, like just because you're around successful people. No, there's a lot of shit there. But when you sell someone something, you simplify the process. You make it sound easy. Was he lying to you? Like, no. But there's obviously it's implied that there's going to be work there, right? Like, you have to do shit. You don't just fucking become rich doing nothing. Like, there is work, but that's where like it shows. That's how you can write copy in a way that's compelling. You make it sound like it's very simple. So sorry, let me put this here because otherwise it's not going to make sense. So they'll seek out information that makes them pick one side or the other. Once that happens, they'll likely pick the belief I installed you. But the difference is that the belief, wait, hold on. The difference is that, oh, sorry, it's supposed to be you believe. So the difference, okay, so they'll seek out information that picks one side or the other. You'll likely pick the belief that I installed into you. But the difference is that you believe you installed that belief, not me. And that's powerful. And what I mean by that is because I dropped the seed, instead of telling you, hey, copywriting sucks, you should do this other thing. Or sorry, I told you like keto sucks, do this other thing. I made you question it. And then you went and did your own research. And then you come back and you think, oh, this is actually better. I'm going to use this diet. But you believed that you installed that belief. You don't think that I did it, even though I did. I dropped the seed. And that's important because then it's a lot more powerful when I convince you of an idea, when you convince yourself of an idea, because then you'll fight other people for that idea. If I can convince you of something, like Tate convince you of like the whole like Matrix thing, it's like now you'll argue with, like, how many people have you argued with about those things? You know, like you argued with them about that shit. Like you're like, no, like the Matrix does exist. Da, da, da. Like now you got to the point where you believe it so much that now you argue with people for that thing. But if I just told you it existed, and I try to force it down you, you're not going to like, yes, some people will listen and that shit works. Like obviously it works, but it's not as powerful as what Tate did, where he dropped these seeds of doubt in your mind and you start to question it. Then you think about it, then you look on previous experiences and you look for proof and you see proof, and then you're like, boom. And that's really powerful because it's like, because at the end of the day, like it's weird because at the end of the day, everything is right. Like it just depends on the way you look at it, right? Like if I was to look at like, say like a feminist, and I went and said, cool, tell me your experience. And they told me it. On some level, they are right through their point of view and the way that they're viewing the world. They're missing certain information, right? So maybe they're not right, but from their worldview and their subjective experience, they believe that they're right. And there's like certain things that they are right about from their perspective. So what that means is that, let's say I try to convince you of like an idea, say like, I don't know, let me think of something like, let's say like the 9-to-5 job is like really bad, right? I'd say like 9-to-5 jobs are terrible for you. Like it puts you in a lot of, there's no security there. It's like, well, there kind of is, because you have an employer who's going to continuously pay your bills. Like there is some truth to that. Like there is some truth to the fact that actually a 9-to-5 job is good, but there's also truth to the fact that it's not, because it's like, well, you could lose your job at any time. You could have all these problems, these complications, whatever, right? So both things are true, but I only show you one. I try to convince you of one and I make you reject the other. And so the reason that's powerful is because, like, say someone's going through their day and maybe they don't buy your shit right then, but then like maybe a few days later, their boss inevitably does something that points out to them and amplifies in their mind that, oh shit, I'm not safe here and I might lose my job. Well, then now that person is now going to think about that thing. And so now they're seeing proof in their real life that's causing them to think about that thing. So that's really powerful, because there's always going to be proof. At some point, they're going to see something that's going to convince them. It's just inevitable. Like inevitably, because of probabilities, something is going to happen and you're going to see that and you're going to believe it. right? That's why there's so many products that exist that maybe aren't even that good. The probabilities of that thing working are so low, but because they only show you the parts that work and they don't show you the other parts, you think it works all the time. So that's kind of like what I was trying to get at. What's your question, Gio?
I don't have one.
Oh,
shit.
yeah.
I don't. I'll try next.
So I don't know where to put this, whatever. It's kind of all right. So basically, like, you convince yourself that you came up with the idea and therefore I didn't push it in your throat. So yeah. So now remember when I said layers, right? Well, there's even deeper, even deeper layers. So if you understand, like, if you think about this, so there's this layer, right, that I'm talking about here, where it's like you're thinking about this idea that there's always like two opposing beliefs. There's always potential for something to someone's perception is always right. Someone can always have a right one. You just got to exemplify that. There's that layer of writing. There's also the layer of what I talked about, like the feeling and emotions and creating memories. Like that's one layer of writing, right? Like that, right? There's so many layers to this, right? There's so many different layers that you can, if you understand them, you can write a lot better. So there's even more like layers that are deeper than that. So, and this is kind of what I said I would come back to with Hilltop. So when you market to someone, you aren't just competing with other competition, you're competing with everything in the world, right? So when someone reads your email, you're competing with Instagram because they'd rather watch an IG reel. And you have to think about that because a lot of people don't think about that. And so, like, not only am I competing for you to buy my product or whatever, I'm also competing with you deciding you don't want to buy that product and you want to just get information for free on YouTube, or you want to watch an Instagram reel, you want to watch Netflix, you don't want to do work, you don't want to actually better your life. Like, I'm competing with all these different things. And then you're also, there's even layer deeper. It's like, well, you're competing with the biology, right? You're competing with like spikes of dopamine and hits of dopamine and how they feel and their subjective experience and just all these things, right? You're competing with that. So it's like, you got to understand the deep human psychology and human behavior to truly affect someone on a deep level. You can't just teach this via copywriting. Like, you can teach it with principles, and everything that Andrew's teaching will get you to 10K a month. But you can get there faster if you understand that stuff, and you can like propel your copywriting even farther once you hit the 10K a month when you understand this stuff. And this is kind of what Andrew said, where he said like most people don't want to think this deep because it's too much. They'd rather just have like the simple tactics, and that's cool if you want to use that. But if you want to like write a lot easier and you want your stuff to have more impact, then you need to understand this stuff, because it helps you write better and helps you understand where you're going with your writing. Like, when you're writing something, you're understanding what's happening. Yeah, so basically I can't just give you a tactic. You have to understand, and only then will it come through your writing. It's all in the subtext. It's about what's not being said. It's the subtle message that's being conveyed. Cool. So then, like, it goes even deeper, right? It keeps fucking going. So like, basically when you write, you're writing to someone's emotions, because we talked about how it's like, we talked about how it's memories, or words, memories, feelings, emotions. And then it's like, so in the men's dating market, they largely want recognition. That's why they want a hot girlfriend in the first place, because they want to show her off. They never got to show her off. So it's like, all your writing needs to have this undertone. You need to convey that right now they don't have recognition and that your product will give them it. And then basically, like, you create this split in their mind. And that's basically like, there's a lot more layers that like I can't think about right now because I only wrote so many, but this is like the ones I'm consciously thinking about. But that's basically it. So it's like, if you think about these different layers when you write, and you know, I'm sure a few of you are probably thinking like, well, how the fuck do I translate this into my writing? It's like, you don't. You just understand this consciously, and then unconsciously it would just translate to your writing. So like, a lot of times when I write now, I still use techniques and stuff and I still write, but a lot of the stuff I'm not trying to like actively think about it. I'm just letting it flow through my unconscious, and I'm just like letting it happen. I'm not like actively thinking about these principles. They just kind of come through you. But when you understand how to think, that then translates into technique later when you actually go to use it. But don't try to like force yourself into thinking about it. And so that kind of comes through, you know, in the way you just like in the way you write. So basically, a good, if for those of you who want a tactical thing, there's one thing I can think about right now, and that's most people write about benefits, right? Like they teach you like, don't talk about features, talk about benefits. Well, I write about outcomes. So I sell someone an outcome. An example of that is saying this psychological technique will teach you how to persuade women. Like that's a benefit, right? So like this is a benefit. But what would be better is like this psychological technique will teach you how to so I guess you could say that. You could still say that. So it's like this psychological technique will teach you how to persuade women on a deep level. And as a result, you will be able to have women wrapped around your finger. As a result, you do have women wrapped around your finger. Wrapped around your finger, and then never again will you have to worry about losing your girl to another guy. So notice how this like hits. So like what I'll usually do, like I'll hit like a benefit, and then I go layers deeper into like an outcome. I write about outcomes, like outcomes meaning like what do they want. So like a lot of people they'll write about like, you know, this thing will teach you how to do XYZ, and I'm like, well, this thing will teach you how to get like this will teach you how to get girls wrapped around your finger. Like that's an outcome. It's like it's sort of a benefit, but it's getting deeper into like being an outcome. And it's like then this is like a completely an outcome is like never again will you have to worry about losing her. You know, it's like a quick example off the top of my head, but basically when you sell to outcomes, it's a lot deeper. But yeah. That's mostly what I want to talk about today. Like I said, it kind of goes really deep. I'll share the doc in the chat again, but yeah. Cool. Does anyone have questions about stuff? But yeah, that's basically all I have for today. But if you can understand this stuff, man, it makes it a lot easier to write, and then you also start to better understand why good copy works. And then when you understand this, then you can look at it and you can be like, oh shit, like they're just shifting a belief. They're shifting the way someone's thinking. Oh, they're that'd probably be a good idea. We should probably just look at a sales letter real fast. Jesus. Sorry, it's not usually disorganized like this because I'm on my laptop and not. You guys can see my screen still, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I think it's where the fuck is it? Oh, there we go. Cool. So we're gonna look at a Carlton letter. I think all of you guys should read Carlton letters because they're fucking awesome. Cool. So which one do we want to look at? Let's see. Oh, dude, this fighting system one is so good. Hold on. Bro, when you guys read this shit, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Because the thing is, too, if you don't understand everything I just said, it's like, what's gonna happen is you're gonna look at copy and you're gonna be like, man, this copy moves me, but I don't really know why. Like you're gonna look at the words and you're gonna, and then that's what happens is people look at the words and they try and swipe the words, but they're missing the whole thing together because everything in marketing comes together as a whole. And another problem that I see that happens a lot is people will look at a sales page and they'll make emails that are completely different to the sales page, or they'll make ads that are completely different to the sales page. And there's like a disconnect. It's like you need to extrapolate your ad copy from parts of the sales page. Otherwise, there's a disconnect because then when someone looks at the ad and then they go to the sales page, they're like, it doesn't connect because you're like talking about completely different shit. And so it's like you need to like drip layers of that in your, in your copy. Otherwise, when they hit the sales page, they're gonna be confused. But yeah, so this is like one of the things he made a sales page. So like all your fancy fighting skills won't earn you an extra second against this devastating new natural fighting system. No, I can't, Jesse. Why are black belts, boxers, and jiu-jitsus, especially these charge? Okay, cool. So if you aren't just a little intrigued about unleashing the brutal warrior inside of you. As you can see, I attached a shiny new nickel to the top of this letter. Why have I done that? Actually, there's two reasons. I have something very important to tell you, and I wanted to be absolutely sure I had your attention. And since this nickel is probably going to help me tell you the most amazing true story I've ever heard, it seems as an appropriate eye catcher, bro. That's so creative. This man literally attached, like, this is like mailed letters. He like mailed them out. And there's like a nickel at the top. And you're like, fucking, how does a nickel relate to a fighting store? Like, you just want to know. You're like, dude, how is this even relatable at all? And then you just want to know. So just outside of there's a beat up warehouse where certain unusual types of people like to gather. If you're a stranger out here, you're not just welcome, you're meat. And it's very easy to tell if you're not one of the in-group. These guys shave their heads and tattoo swastikas on their scalp. They're permanently pumped with a steroid and amphetamine rage. So notice how it's like very visual. It's like they're permanently pumped with a steroid and amphetamine rage. They wear jack boots, carry chain knives, baseball hats, and they never ever fight fair. All fights are 3, 4, even a dozen to 1. They're skinhead neo-Nazis, probably the most vicious and dangerous punks roaming around America. We'll skip that. Yeah, so on his ordinating night, this guy made the mistake of driving to an isolated warehouse. He thought he was going to see a band play music, maybe find a nice girl to dance with. Can you imagine that? You'll like go to this warehouse, you're like, yeah, I want to roll up in this bar, and it's like fucking just straight neo-Nazis everywhere. You're like, whoops. He didn't have much money on him. After paying the cover, he only had one little nickel in his pocket, and he like closes the loop, right? Remember that, a single nickel, not even enough to leave a tip at the makeshift bar. Kristen noted what to make of these skinheads giving him the evil eye. He thought they really had bad haircuts and silly tasting clothes. He felt no fear. So like notice the implied, like, what are the meta level messages going on here? It's like, well, like this guy is so much not even scared that he's literally just like laughing at their haircuts and their tasting clothes. Like he felt no fear. In fact, as he passed the table of them, he reached out and rubbed one of their scalps. Nice haircut, fella. Like, bro, this like, again, you could just write copy and ignore this part, like not write this, but there's like, again, it's a meta level message. Like, what's the emotion he's conveying? It's like, well, he's conveying like this guy was so not scared that he's just like rolling around the world with just so much confidence. Like he's not even scared when he goes into like a terrifying bar. Whereas like you would be scared shitless. So they cornered him and the plan paid on. Now you have to get the scene right to understand the importance of what happened next. The smallest of the three skinheads, they were reaching for objects in their pockets. It was too dark to see clearly, smiling with relish for the stomping they expected to hand out. No one in the warehouse had the slightest urge to help or stop the fight. So again, it's like painting the fear even deeper. It's like no one even that was going to help him. There was nowhere for Chris to escape. In less than a second, he suddenly realized he's about to be jumped by 3 experienced fighters. And so again, what's the the sub message, well, experienced Street Fighter. So it's like he's not only just like saying you're about to like fight against like random dudes. Like, no, you're fighting against 3 experienced Street Fighters. So it's basically saying this system's so good that like even against experienced Street Fighters, it's gonna be good. And then it goes into like, well, what would you have done? You know, in your heart, you run the risk every day of being in the same situation. So relating the experience back to them, right? Cornered by punks who know what to do, and then basically like he ties their family in there, and then it's not even connected to robbery anymore. They don't want your nickel, they want to throw a stomp in your face. So it's like not only that, he's like amplifying the fact that like he's basically calling out people like, oh, because there's a sub message of like, well, I don't need this because I just won't fight people, or I'll just like run away from fights. It's like, no, there's people that just want to fight you just because, and they don't give a shit. That's another like layer that he's like putting in there. So yeah, and then he talks about like places it could happen, like you'd be downtown, movie theater, your local 7-Eleven, or in the cool darkness of your own bedroom late at night. It's like, damn, bro, that hits deep. It's like, fuck, dude. And it's like, have you seriously thought about what will happen to you during real life crunch time where your life and that of your loved ones aren't worth a plugged nickel? That's basically like a saying back in the day. Used to say like plug nickel. So it's like back in the lonely Tulsa warehouse, Chris didn't have the time to think. He didn't need to in a blink. So again, this is also another message like, well, he didn't even have to think, bro. Like this fighting stuff is so good. You don't even have to think about it. It just comes natural. Like that's how good the system is. You don't have to like consciously think about what you're going to do. And then he didn't need to. In a blink, he turned that nasty situation around 100 degrees. And even though they were poised and ready to attack, they found themselves suddenly thrust into a world of pain and confusion. It's like, see, like I said about the certain words, like suddenly thrust into a world of pain, like that has like a huge connotation behind it. And he's like, he didn't use anything that remotely resembles karate or judo or taekwondo or boxing or wrestling. No, he did something that those experienced fighters have never seen before and hope that they'll never see again. Cool. I don't want to go through like a bunch of this. Yeah, you guys can go and read a lot of this on your own, but yeah, I when you start to read this stuff, you'll like see like, damn, there's like so many meta messages that are happening in like these stories. It's like crazy that actually imprint brutally effective fighting skills directly into your nervous system. That's so fucking good, dude. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. I don't know if anyone has questions about shit. Like Jesse, who's had like 42 questions this whole time. Wow, Jesse, you don't have any questions now? You only raised your hand like 4 times.
The knowledge you dropped created a infinite starburst inside of his brain, and now he's on the floor.
Right. See, but even too, like me telling you guys all this stuff is in a way like planting my own seeds. Like I'm not doing it purposely, but naturally good marketing plants seeds in your mind, because now when you go to write copy, you think about like, shit, I can't just think about copy in terms of copy anymore. You're start thinking about all these things that's talked about. And that's where like the whole dropping seeds is really powerful, because then it's like, well, someone starts to like adopt your beliefs and adopt the way that you think about things, and they become more indoctrinated, and they start to question the way they view the world. And that's really powerful, because like imagine I caused all these, like if I just kept doing this for like a week or two, and I just like put a bunch of splinters in your mind, or like dropped a bunch of seeds, and then I like released a program that's like, it's like the next level of copy, like beyond copywriting, is like I call a program that shit or some shit, and then I make a program about that. Well, it's like then you're gonna want to join, because you're gonna be thinking like, all I have to do is literally just say like, look, knowing how to copyright is not enough, because you can learn all the tactics in the world, but that doesn't move people if you don't know how to affect people emotionally. You don't know how to like make them feel and think certain things that drive them over the edge. And if I was to push that message and I like link it to everything I talked about, then when I come back like a week later and I'm like, hey, you know, there's more important things beyond copywriting. There's like this, and you need to understand them. And I make some course about like how to fucking understand human psychology. It's like a lot of you would buy because it's like I created this seed in your mind. Like some of you wouldn't, but it's, you know what I'm saying? Like that's, so if you can do that when you write for your clients, you can cause these like, you can create seeds in people's mind and make them sort of question other systems and other things they're doing. They might not buy that day, but they might buy in a few days. And all it takes is them reading one of your emails after you sparked that seed, or sorry, you drop that seed, and you just spark a specific feeling in their mind and they start to think a certain way. Yeah. So like when I was writing, like I have a women's dating offer that I'm writing, and like women's dating meaning like teaching women how to get men committed to them. Like in that message I talked about, like I sold the outcome to them, right? Like I talked about earlier about selling outcomes. So I sold the outcome instead of just selling them a technique. I sold the outcome of like what they want. And like the outcome they want is like a masculine man who wraps them in their loving arms and makes them feel protected. And I sold that. I didn't sell. And like when you understand this stuff, then you start to realize that like copy isn't so much selling your product as much as it is selling them on the idea of your philosophy. Because if you think about anything that's sold really well, it has a unique philosophy about it. Like the philosophy and the way of viewing, like if you think about like Tate, right? Like Tate did really well because he has a specific philosophy and way of viewing the world. Competition is in the world, it's player versus player. There's all these philosophies that he has. And when you start to adopt those philosophies, he sells you on the idea of that. And it's like, well, he's the only one that teaches that shit. So then you buy his shit. And so like that's why it's so important to have like a unique mechanism or a unique solution or unique thing that you do, even if it's slightly different. That's why there's so many new diets that come out all the time, because it's like, well, it's slightly different. You tried keto, but now there's this one. It's like, and it's slightly different. And here's why. And you explain why, and you sell people on your philosophy. And once you sell them on the idea, then it's really easy to sell them a product. And so it's like, it's more like a lot of my sales pages now, I don't necessarily sell the thing. I just sell the idea. So like when I wrote a VSL for like my women's dating product, it's like I didn't even really sell the product. I just sold them on the idea that the way they're doing things is not right. Right. So I'm like, look, you know, right now you're going into, you know, interactions, or you're talking to, you know, a guy you're with, and you're investing a lot. You're putting a lot of effort in, you're putting all this time, effort, energy in, you're chasing him, you're doing a lot. I was like, well, we don't value things that we don't value things that we don't put time, energy, and effort into. So what's happening? Like, I was like, you have to understand how humans value things. We value things we put time, energy, and effort into. So what's happening is you value him more and more and more and more, and you like him and care about him more and more and more because you keep putting more and more effort in. And the more he doesn't put in effort, the more he doesn't really care that much, because we don't care about things we already have that we feel like are always there. Right? You don't really think about the house you live in or the car you have or the things you have because you already have them. But you think about the things you don't have or the things that feel hard to attain. That's why like typically you like to go after like a man who, you know, you have to chase a little bit. But the problem is you don't want to chase too much. It's like a delicate balance. And like you have to have a balance there. That has to be like, you have to get him to start chasing you back. And I was like, well, it's not as easy as just pulling away, because then he's not going to invest at all. And then the relationship just falls apart. Like you have to inspire him to start investing and start chasing. You have to do it in the right way. You have to like make him want to do it. I was like, you can't just force someone. You have to like, I mean, I basically taught them almost what I just taught you guys here today. It's like, you can't force someone, so you inspire them by like guiding their mind. And so if you really think about it, so basically I sold them on that idea. And then when I sell them a solution is, oh, here's the solution to that thing. Well, then they naturally want to buy it, because it's like they are sold on my philosophy of way of thinking. I guided them the way that I wanted them to. And then that kind of ties back into what we said earlier about the whole like you're competing with everything, right? I remember how I said you have to first get someone to say no before they can say yes. Like I'm like, oh, you're competing with Netflix and shit, right? Well, think about like the best people that do this are women. what is like a woman's dating strategy? Woman's dating strategy to get them to, not dating strategy, but relationship strategy. Like, what is their strategy to get them to date you? It's not that they necessarily get them to say yes to you. They just get you to say no to everyone else. They basically convince you that no other girl is good and you're the one they want. Like, they don't try and get you to say yes necessarily. They just make you think that every other option isn't as good as them. That's really their strategy. And then once you do that, then you naturally just say yes to them, right? Like, so that's, they do the same shit as like how you should be marketing. Like, you basically should market how they date. So that's kind of like how you sell to outcomes and how you convince someone, right? You're trying to convince them more of the idea. And so that's why, like, a lot of times in my emails, I don't even necessarily always push something, or my call to action, people will look at it like, your call to action is like really weak. I'm like, I don't need a strong call to action because I dropped all these seeds in their mind. I don't need to be like, click here to learn, like, to like increase your sales by like 247%. It's like, that's like a gimmick. Like, that doesn't really work. I'd rather the whole email convince them, and then my call to action is like, click here to discover the solution, or like, click here to solve XYZ problem. Like, I don't really need to make it like this crazy click intensive or curiosity driven click. Like, I don't need that, because the whole email is curiosity driven. I like drive the wedge in their freaking mind. So yeah, so that's basically like how I write now. And so then I think I told you this, Auden. I was like, even when I'm giving value, what am I doing? I'm not giving value. I'm just shifting your beliefs. So it feels like I'm giving you value, but really every email is shifting your belief. So when I'm like giving value in an email, I'm not just gonna like make an email just for no reason. I'm gonna change the way you think about shit. And they're gonna be like, oh, he's giving me value. It's like, yeah, I'm giving you value by like changing the way you think about shit. So then the next day, when I pitch you something, well, I already shifted your belief. And that's where like everything ties together. You have to look at the whole picture and the whole thing. And that's why when you look at you know, you got to think like, well, why do content creators do so well? It's like, how do they do so well with terrible marketing? Like, how many times do you like, have you, you know, work with someone, you're like, how the fuck are you doing like 20, 30K a month when they have like this shit sales page, like all this crap? You're like, how? And it's like, well, they're selling you over time. Like, their videos are changing the way you view shit. And it's like their content over like a month cycle of you watching their content every other day. It's like, well, that's their sales page. Instead of the sales page being horizontal, right? Like when you go in, or sorry, vertical, when you go and look at a sales page and you scroll up and down, their sales page is left to right. It's horizontal. And it goes across multiple days. And so then that thing, so you think about like, well, then how do I structure content for an influencer who has Instagram? It's like, well, every post is like a horizontal sales page. Like one day, you know, you might talk about the discovery story. One day you might talk about testimonials. One day you might talk about the unique mechanism. The next day you might talk about a lesson. Like, notice how that's basically all the elements of a good sales page. There's discovery story, the unique mechanism, the unique solution. There's like testimonials, like all those things. You just do it in the same fashion, except you do it across like 2 weeks. So that's basically how I think about like writing content for someone. But yeah, what was your question, Cole? Sorry, I was like on a roll.
All's good, all's good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sweet. So you were saying how it would be a fantastic idea to change their worldview and take them from thinking, well, basically take them from point A to point B, because once they believe in your worldview, it's a lot easier to sell them on something.
Mhm.
So I was thinking that, of course, we would need some kind of a mechanism to give them a reason to want to change their worldview. So
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking, would certain motivators, such as consequences and implications of them staying the same, be motivators to change to a different worldview, show them that, hey, if you carry on doing things the way you're doing them right now, it's not going to end well for you, you know? Would you say
Yeah.
that would be like a good motivator to get them change?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because if you just boil down everything into what I said, like the whole premise of what I said is marketing is simply just change work. You're getting someone to change the way they think
Yeah.
about shit. So what's a good way to change someone? Well, you talk about the negatives, because right now they don't see the negatives. So we drive a wedge into like, here's what happened. Because right now they're thinking, oh, my life's great. Like, I remember the example I gave earlier about the job or whatever. I'm like, oh, well, I have financial security. But if you drive a wedge and you're like, actually, you don't, here's what could happen if you just continue down the path you're down, then I cause them to have like opposing ideas. And they're like, well, shit. On one hand, I believe that I have security. And on the other hand, this guy's telling me I don't. And you're like, well, fuck. And you got to think about it. And then you start like, and that's where the process becomes even deeper, because then not only am I selling you, someone else might, like, let's say I give you that idea and then someone else then goes and they go and watch a YouTube video from someone else, and that guy starts talking about how 9-to-5s are bad, and then it's like reinforcing more things and adding more proof to my argument. And sure, he might end up buying his product, but he's more likely to buy mine because I'm the one who brought the idea to him and made him aware of it. But yeah.
Yeah, that's facts. So another thing that I was thinking we could also do is we could try and get them to sell themselves on the idea. So if we could like you said, plant the seed that this bad thing is gonna happen, but we do it way, and then the bad thing happens, and they kind of think that they've sold themselves on the idea and that they've discovered the solution. So it's like a very sneaky way of doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, if you just look at, if you think about like the way I know this stuff, like one, I learned a lot of it from people, but a lot of it too is like when I learned it from someone too, the ideas were reinforced by speaking to people and watching how they acted. So I would watch people who would like read content from Tate, and they'd come to me and be like, dude, I really need to join the war room. And they'd be like anxious about it. And they'd be like, dude, it's like they believe that if they didn't, their life was screwed. And I was just like, then I would be like, bro, you're totally fine. Like, just chill. Like, you'll be able to join in like a few weeks. Like, quit freaking out. Like, your life's not going to end. But it's like they shifted his beliefs so much that this person like started to think that like, oh, if I don't join, like the world is ending. And like, if you notice, like that's how powerful it can be, is if you do it correctly, the person feels like they have no other option. And like, if they don't do it now, like it's done. And when you understand this stuff, you don't really get affected by it as much. Like that, a lot of times I don't really get affected by marketing as much anymore because I know what's happening. Like, bro, I know what you're doing. Now, obviously, if it's for good intentions, and I think the person has good intentions like Tate does, well, I'll buy their stuff. But I buy it because I do it on my own volition. I don't do it because I'm like, oh my God, I need this thing because it's going to like like I need this thing. I need it or I'm not going to be able to do anything. It's like, I don't buy into that because I know I don't, and it's like, you gotta think about like you gotta think about value too. Like value is relative. Like, what I said earlier about the Rolex thing, or sorry, not the Rolex. When I said earlier about the trade-off thing, like you have to say no before you say yes. The same thing happens. Like, let's say I wanted to sell you like a Rolex. It's like, well, for someone to take action, there has to be desire and justification, which then equals action. So a lot of you have a desire to buy a Rolex or buy, a Lambo, but you can't justify it because you're like, well, I have to go get a fucking loan. I go into massive debt, and then I'd probably why would I do that when I could just buy a coaching program and like level up my skills? Like there's no justification there. You can't justify it. Right. So it's like, you don't want to buy the Rolex because you're like, well, I just can't justify it. So if you think about anything that you've ever not bought recently, it's likely because of one of two reasons. One, there was no desire, or two, there was no justification for it. It's like, well, if I told you, hey, do you really want this makeup? You're like, no, because you have no fucking desire for that shit. Like, you don't want fucking makeup. You're not a girl. You don't care. But if I'm like, hey, do you want this Lambo? You're like, yeah, I want that Lambo. And I'm like, cool. Do you want to pay me $100 grand for it? You're like, no, you can't justify it. There's no justification for it. So that's how you get a sale. And that's why I said before to someone else that the best niche to be in when you're starting out is BizOp or make money online. It's like, why? Well, naturally, there's already a justification there because the person's always doing the math. They're always like, oh, well, if I join this program, I'm going to make 10K a month back and I'll be able to pay it off real fast. Like, I might be in debt right now, but who cares? Like, I'll be able to pay it off. So it's like, all you really need to do is like crank the desire and crank the pain, and they'll easily buy. You don't need a lot of justification. Whereas like if I try to get you to pay $1,000 to join my fitness program, I have to also get you to justify that, because that $1,000 could go to 100 other things, and it's a lot harder. You have to be really good at marketing to do both those, because you have to crank justification, you have to crank desire, and you have to get them to just justify why. That's why a lot of times you link working out or getting girls or whatever to other things. You're like, oh, if you work out, then you'll be able to get more girls, or you'll be able to like feel more confident, which then leads to more money. Like you relate it to things, but then that makes them want to justify it more. And then that leads to the question of like, well, where does value come from? And it's like, well, if me and you were on an island and I'm like, hey bro, do you want this Rolex? And you're like, no, I want the fucking G-Shock because I don't give a shit about a Rolex. It's probably gonna break. Like I need a G-Shock because I need to do shit with this thing. I need it. And it's like, well, value is relative. Like value comes from status, which comes from people. But there's no people there. You don't care about the Rolex because there's no value of it. The real value comes from the usage of it, which is why you would want a G-Shock instead of a Rolex if you're on an island. So then that makes you think about, well, what makes things valuable? It's like, well, value comes from, a lot of times it comes from like other people thinking it's valuable and other people wanting it. And that's why you desire having like a nice body or a nice car or whatever. And that makes you, I don't remember where I was going with that, but basically, yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that, but I don't know if anyone has questions, but I'll probably wrap it in a minute. It's funny too, because I already know like in 2 or 3 days, a lot of you guys are gonna message me like, bro, what the fuck? That shit's like eating my mind. I just know how it is. That's how I was when I learned it. It's like, at first I was like, oh yeah, it sounds pretty cool. And then I would, like 2 days later, I was like, dude, this is the craziest shit ever. Like, what the? So. All right, cool. Well, we're gonna wrap it. I'm glad y'all came. It was a good time. And go ahead and drop some seeds out there, figuratively and literally. And yeah, take care. What, Jesse? What do you want? I asked if we had any questions, and you wait till I'm about to
I
bounce.
forgot about it. My bad. Okay, listen.
Oh my fucking god, dude.
Okay, I was trying to think. I was literally trying to think. Okay. You said that the ads need to sprinkle in from the VSL or the sales page. How,
Oh, yeah.
what do you mean by that? Like, how would you describe that?
Well, what happens is like there needs to be intent behind the click, right? So I guess I'm gonna click, and there needs to be like congruity. There needs to be congruence between like what you're advertising and what they see when they're on the page. So like a lot of times I'll take direct sentences from my copy and I'll copy it over to the ad, so it creates a sense of congruence. But like if I talk about like one thing and you land on it and the headline is like slightly different, it's gonna like create this disconnect in your mind. It doesn't feel congruent. And a lot of times when people have bad ads, it's like because they don't extrapolate it from the sales page. And like, yes, you might not get as good of, like there's a potential that you might not get as good of like click-through rate, but the click-through rate is better because then when they do actually click through and they land on the page, there's congruence there. And then that congruence makes them buy or whatever the intention is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, are we talking like does, I don't know how to explain this. Like, are you saying like the energy of the sales page has to match the ad? Like, for example,
It's not really the energy, it's just more like the actual words and things you say. I mean, one, the meta message has to match, like the actual meta message between the two has to match, or the layers of it. Like what you're trying to say and convey has to match. And then also, you know, like I said, like if it's a written sales page, I'm like taking literal sentences from the sales page and putting them in the ad copy. So
well,
it's like extremely
just
congruent, you know.
I'm just like, okay, so like, your client has a VSL, the e-commerce dude, he has a VSL. And so like, would you take, because it's kind of like a free form, it's like almost a webinar, right? So like, would you take the free form stuff that he says in there? Cause my client's the same way too.
Well, I wouldn't allow, I mean, I would never let them freeform it. I just do because that's not part of my job. Like I only do content for him and I've tried to do other stuff and he's like, no, I got it. I'm like, okay, I guess you don't like making money then, like, cause I know what the fuck I'm doing. But yeah, like if it was a real client, I'd be like, look, we need to like make sure the sales page. I mean, most people don't just freeform their VSL. Like most people at least somewhat have it congruent. I mean, it's not as important with a VSL. It's more for like a written page, but at least the ad needs to make, at least the ad needs to make sense. Like you got to think about the subjective experience. Like when someone clicks the ad, does the headline make sense? Like, does the headline is it completely congruent, or is there any way for them to be like, this doesn't feel like what I just clicked on? Like, that's what I mean. Like if it's a VSL, the headline is the part that needs to make sense. It needs to be congruent with what you just said.
Right.
And the reason I say that is because like I didn't think about this when I used to make ads, and then there was no congruence between my shit. So I'd get a lot of really like click heavy ads that like, because I was using DIC, but then I didn't think about like making sure it's congruent with the page, so it didn't really lead to as many sales. Versus now I make sure my ads are congruent along the way, which then also makes it easier because then when you make the sales page, you know, you're making the sales page with the thought of like making it very intrigue driven, and then it makes making the ad really easy because you just extrapolate a lot of words and phrases from it, you know, like the specific unique mechanism I use, or like the word, you know, like I say like flip a switch. That's like one of the, you know, I say like flip a hidden switch in the male's in his brain. I say that on the ad and the page. And so it's like, it's very congruent. I use a lot of the same terminology in the way it's said and this stuff like that, basically.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So like, I mean, a good example would literally be like, when your example would be like, you're talking about like how to make money and like the recession's coming and you need to be careful and make sure you have like financial security. And then you went on this page is like how to start an e-commerce store. It's like, it's what? Like there's like a disconnect because you didn't really connect the two together. You didn't connect the fact that like making money means like there's no flip over. Like you can start the ad talking about like how the recession's bad, this, and then there needs to be a flip over. Like there needs to be a part where you flip it to like, cool. And the way to do that is to start an e-commerce store, and then click here and the headline is like, here's how to start a profitable e-commerce. Like, I'm not saying you're doing it, but that's if your headline is that. There needs to be a flip over. If it's not your headline, if your headline is talking about how the recession is coming, you need to have like a side hustle, whatever. And then they went on a page like, here's the best side hustle of 2022. It's like, well, that's congruent because you were just talking about how they need income. But do you see what I mean by that?
Yeah, no, I totally understand.
Yeah. But people don't think about that. And they, you know, and the same thing happens with like an email too. It's like, they don't think about what the next thing is when they hit the sales page. They don't think about like what it says on the sales page. And then there's like a bit of incongruence. Like you'll still get sales from it. It just won't be as good, you know?
Well, when like you're doing IG captions for Ramen, you're always like talking about like like mental stuff. So it has nothing to do, and you do the flip over. So I do
I mean,
agree
it's not
with you.
it's not all mental. There's a
Yeah,
lot of it.
but it's like, okay, for example,
It's
the
like
one where you,
30% mental, bro. Like most of it is like about making money and shit.
yeah, but like you've done stuff like, oh, you secretly don't respect yourself. And it's just like inner struggles that they have, like that people like me and everybody else in HU has,
Yeah, and that's like value giving, bro. Like not every post. This is what I was just saying earlier, bro. Like not every post. Like you can't create this relationship cycle. You got to think about the relationship cycle. If all I do is all my posts, every single post is just me talking about making money and doing this and that, and then I just keep shoving it down your throat like, hey, click here to join, click here to join. It's like, well, you don't listen to that anymore because you're just like, this guy just wants to sell me shit. So you mix it in. You mix in like other stuff, like other things they need to take action. So if you look at everything that I do, it's me understanding my avatar, meeting them where they're at, and then I have the flip over. So like I meet them where they're at, and I'm like, my goal with those aren't necessarily to sell people a lot of times. A lot of times it's just shifting their beliefs, right? Like I talked about earlier, everything we just talked about. like shifting the way they think about the world and shifting, shifting the way they think. Because if I can shift the way they think, then they're going to start thinking differently, and then they're going to join my program.
Okay.
You pair that with like the next day you see a post about here's how to make money and shit, and it's like, well, you're more likely to listen to that thing.
Right, right.
But a lot of it, yeah, it's just like giving value, and Instagram is different too, because like Instagram is a platform where you gotta have good reach and you gotta make sure you're like giving value and stuff, and it's a good mixture. You can't just like be selling on it. But yeah, but I also do the flip over, like I said, so a lot of people don't think about that. It's like I meet them where they're at and then give them info of what they want, and then I flip it over to like why it's important. And that flip over is really key, because it's like, well, I'm always relating how this thing is important to what you're trying to do.
Okay.
But like with his stuff, man, I don't really try as hard with his stuff, because he wants it to be so general, and it's like he doesn't want to get so specific, and he doesn't want to like fix the sales page to like make it very specific. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to be very fucking general then. I'm not really trying as hard to do this stuff. But like with other people, it's like I'll try a lot harder, and I make it way more thought out. With like his stuff, I don't really think about it, because it's like I'm like, he's just kind of not really listening to what I'm saying, or he doesn't. It's just a different relationship, so I don't really, yeah, like I'm not really thinking about it as much. And a lot of times he'll just give me a reel and he's like, make a caption for this. So it's like I kind of just make whatever. It's not like I'm like curating the reels and shit. Like they're just kind of like he makes them and I just like add captions to them. So I
Right.
kind of don't have control over like the whole sales process. So I'm not like actively thinking about this stuff. I mean, I do, like it comes out unconsciously, but yeah.
Okay. Appreciate it, bro.
Yep. But does anyone else have a question or no? I don't know if I just like spawned other questions off of that shit. All right, peace. Well, I'll see you guys in Experience Chat. It was good having this chat. I think you guys probably got a lot of value from it, and expect you guys to start dropping some seeds. And yeah, take care.